Wow. Literally all I've got to say for this intro is, wow. How's it going, Doom Patrollers? Welcome! It feels so good to say to a Season 2 review of Doom Patrol. And this is, of course, for Episode 1, Fun Size Patrol. As of when watching this, it's important for you guys to know, as a lot of you already do, that I've been given access to the first 3 episodes, but what I have done is I've only watched, as of when recording this video, the first episode. I wanted to simulate the weekly experience for me. I didn't want to watch all 3 episodes and have that insight and then review Episode 1, knowing what's going to happen, if that makes sense. And I might inadvertently give something away, and I don't want to do that. I mean, I will be watching Episode 2 after this, and then Episode 3, but reviewing as of each one. I wanted to make sure I did it just as usual, because it's absolutely crazy that 3 episodes are airing on one day, today. And I know a lot of you are going to binge all 3. I mean, I would as well. And, you know, by the time you're seeing this, I would have already had all 3 episodes, you know, edited and uploaded to the channel. However, I'm not going to upload all 3 breakdowns today. I'm going to upload Episode 1, which you're watching right now, and then Episode 2 in maybe several hours afterwards, 3 to 4 to 5 hours after that. And then I'm going to upload Episode 3 tomorrow. And it's also quite interesting considering that some of you watching this video right now may have already seen all 3 episodes, but the Boba right here has only seen Episode 1 as of recording this video. This was good. I was hyped for Doom Patrol, but this was brilliant. I didn't expect them to do some of the things that they did already within the first scene of this episode. So let's get into this, guys, but go ahead and like the video if you do enjoy it, and subscribe for more DC Universe and Doom Patrol videos and comic book nerdy stuff like this. Thank you so much for the support on the channel, but let's get into this. So this episode, Fun Size Patrol Episode 1, was written by Jeremy Carver, the showrunner, but also the story editor, Shoshana Sashi. I'm sorry if I butchered that now. I'm sorry if you happen to be watching this, Shoshana, but yeah, seriously, this was an amazing episode, well written. That goes without saying. I love all of Doom Patrol. With the introduction of Dorothy and everything else, it just still maintains the caliber of Season 1. I think with Season 1 sometimes, you know, people worry and maybe are apprehensive because sometimes it knocks it out the park, just like Doom Patrol Season 1 did. You're always worried, can they really go and replicate that again in Season 2? I mean, sure, you've got the same cast, the same actors, the same crew, same characters, a new story, but are they really going to replicate it? And at least from what I've seen from this whole 54, 55-minute episode, and I say this honestly, it was fantastic. It really was. And Shoshana, I'm sorry, it might be my accent. You're cool. Does that mean I get a like now, not a dislike? So finally, the beginning, London, 1927. This scene was pretty heartbreaking, to be honest, and I loved it. Dorothy is in a circus. It really was heartbreaking to see Dorothy, you know, just crying, you know, under that cage, just so she could be laughed at. It really instantly puts you into the character, empathizing with her. And, you know, I want to say this later, just after saying a lot of things, but Abigail Shapiro just did an amazing job as Dorothy Spinner. Doom Patrol is the best comic book. I know this sounds like I'm shilling. It's almost cringy to me because of hearing myself out loud. It's one of the best if not the best adaptation of any source material I've ever seen. And I say that because everything they've already done in this first episode already steals so much out of those pages. If you've been watching my recent videos going in Season 2 and breaking down some things from Dorothy Spinner, her imaginary friends like Darling Come Home and people like that, it's already like, wow, they're already doing it. She conjured up the big wolf antler deer man kind of thing, and yeah, that was interesting because guess what? Well, you guys have seen it, and some of you may not know this, but those of you who do know who Dorothy Spinner is know that Candlemaker comes hand in hand. I've said I didn't know how heavy they were going to emphasize him into this season without going too down into this rabbit hole because I need to break down a lot of other things. I said that I think the big bad, if you will, even though it's not a big bad, will be dealing with Dorothy and the repercussions of her abilities. Whilst that is true, I am now more concrete than ever that Candlemaker will be the end game, the real big end game. It started in this episode and it ended in this episode with Candlemaker. Very chilling performance, voice from Candlemaker. Candlemaker presented Dorothy with a wish, and she wished to probably be free, and that's why he kind of decimated everyone there. And I don't even want to get into the wishes too much and what happens in certain fulfilled wishes and things like that. But let me just say, and I think you can get this impression just from his voice and how afraid Dorothy is from him, and even how Niles seems to know a little bit about this Candlemaker. It was such a brilliant way to start off the episode. I love how the candle came out and she I didn't expect that right away, but they did it. Now, as for how Niles was there, I don't think I have to get into this too much. I think it's fairly common sense. So she got captured from the wild, as the circus master kind of said, from her mother. God knows what happened to her mother. Maybe she's dead. Who knows? But Dorothy got captured either way. Now, this is in 1927. Niles met her mother in 1913. I think he was with her for a couple of years. And I think Niles just assumed they were okay, right? But then, obviously, he may have heard of this girl in the circus. And that's how he came to the realization, like, oh my God, that's my daughter. He wouldn't have known necessarily that she got captured. Like, they were in the wild. Like, for him, he just thought they were so out there and secretive that why would anyone stumble across them? But that obviously happened. That's how she got captured. Maybe Dorothy's mother is gone now, which is really sad to think about. Maybe there might be more lights shined upon that. But that moment when Niles was there at the end and he looked at her, that was that realization of, oh my God, it's true. You're my daughter. And it's interesting how they played the scene after this with Dorothy talking to her friends and just saying, well, you know my friends. And then she like reiterates who they are again because apparently they've forgotten who the Doom Patrol members are. Now, this is really more of a behind the scenes thing because this is also airing on HBO Max alongside DC Universe, which opens up a whole big new audience. Now, some people obviously will go and watch season 1 and then tune into season 2, but a lot of people don't even know who the Doom Patrol is, let alone that it's a DC Universe show. So it's kind of for those people probably, and maybe a bit of a recap for those casual normie viewers, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, some people may just jump into season 2 and want to know who these characters are. And Larry, of course, is normal size, and I just love how he's taking care of everyone. It's absolutely hilarious how he was cooking these tiny little pancakes, and also not to mention the little joint that he made for Jane, which, he, as she said herself, she must have had to do with tweezers. That's just, I love it. Now, going in season 2, we knew what to expect a little bit. As I said, if you've been watching my videos, I've been breaking down where everyone is at a few weeks in. We've got quite a few teasers from April Bowlby, Jeremy Carver. Some people are willing to get along with Niles. Some people, like Jane, just no. Like, we're not going to be friends. You understand all sides. You really do. Niles is a good guy, but he's done terrible things. He's definitely apologetic, but it's such a cluster F of a situation that... yeah, it is really difficult, but I like how they explore it. Cliff is another one of them, right out the gate, just saying, like, he doesn't have any faith in the Chiefs, like, restoring of their size right at that beginning part of the episode, because after all, they're all these freak creations, if you will, or whatever he said, and they're his life's work, so is he really gonna achieve this today? And it seemed that it did fail with whatever Larry was doing with that toad. And the second that Rita was just like, if science isn't working, then maybe we need to turn to something else, magic. And I just knew, obviously, going in with the details, Kipling. I was so excited, and it sucks that he wasn't in the episode as much as I was hoping he would be. I really don't know if he's going to be in the future episodes. Maybe towards the back end, who knows? Maybe a completely separate thing, maybe when coming to deal with the Candlemaker and all kinds of things like that. But I really hope Mark Sheppard returns. He fits in wonderfully. It was great seeing him for what we did this episode, and things get very interesting with his character later, which we'll get into. Now, it's kind of ironic in a way because all of us are living in quarantine, lockdown, some of us coming out of it now, but it's been a good few months, and we can kind of, see with the Doom Patrol here, not only are they feeling depressed in certain ways after what, the realization was with Niles Calder and, what he did to them, but they've been living in lockdown on a freaking racetrack set, and they're all getting down with that. So talking about Cliff and his frustrations a second ago, he's been going to the rats, baiting them out with cheese and knocking them, literally pummeling them into the distance, and we saw that in the trailer, but I didn't realize he'd done it 23 times and been tallying it up, and that introduced this funny, wacky side little element to the story, which... it turned very gruesome later. Now, meanwhile, for Jane and the others in the underground, she's been kind of going there. And one thing to realize about, obviously, the whole Jane situation, this got iterated a bunch in season 1, but you guys just may be slightly forgetful, as we all do after some time passes by, because we've been waiting for season 2 for a long, long, long time now. Obviously, as a primary, you're meant to be out there in the world as the primary. You can't really go back in there and escape for too long. That's why a lot of them were annoyed with Jane when she went down to the underground for a whole episode in Jane Patrol. But Hammerhead says to her that you can't keep doing this. You see what this is doing to us, right? It's about Kay, and she's exiling herself to the underground through the method of taking that serum that Joshua Clay gave to her. If you guys remember all the way back in the Doom Patrol episode, to kind of control the powers that, you know, sometimes exploded from the original Doom Patrol team. He had this little thing that, you know, it kind of levels everyone out. That's how they controlled the situation that episode, with everything just breaking loose. And Jane, she was abusing that last season, and she's been taking it this episode. Now, the personalities of Jane want a change, and I definitely think I see where this is going. I'm just going to call it now. I could be completely wrong about this, but from the trailers, we saw that Miranda, the primary before Jane, who disappeared down the well, is in it. Now, this makes me think that considering Jane carries on abusing at the very end of the episode to inhibit all of her personalities, that's why they're all sat there in the underground just like staring into space, because it's messing them up. I think they're going to bring Miranda back, and she's going to become the new primary, and that's going to be a little side plot for, or a little subplot for Jane. Now, once again, referencing my previous videos breaking down the teasers of what Jeremy Carver and others have, you know, teased for season 2, they described how the Doom Patrol, in terms of flashbacks and stuff like that, will be visiting their relationship as parents and with their own parents. For example, this episode, we had Larry as a father and Cliff, well, even with his father. Now, this was back to California in 1961. I believe before, obviously, he had the whole kind of accident, you know, with the test flight. And this was kind of confusing. I think this is just not, I say confusing just in the sense of why Larry did act that way with his son, because his son was just being really nice, just wanted him to be proud of him. The family's proud of their dad. But we have to remember, Larry's home life was kind of, you know, very complicated. There was a lot of tension and stuff, background stuff going on behind the scenes. He was probably seeing his boyfriend, if you know what I mean, on the side, and we all know where that story went in season 1. And yeah, it was just like, as a father, you would think you wouldn't do that. You would understand where, obviously, his wife was coming from, but he was adamant about just starting over. I think it's revisiting a little bit of his guilt in the past, maybe, but also I think, and I think it's fairly obvious what the negative spirit was pointing out to him, because obviously the negative spirit, just like season 1, does stuff like this very deliberately, because if you look at season 1, why was he showing him the visions of, for example, his boyfriend? And well, that's because in real life, he was literally about to die. And then lo and behold, this episode, his son, he found out on his smartphone right at the end, had passed away. So maybe it was just like, you need to go see him perhaps, or at least attend the funeral. So that may be coming up in the future episode. So yeah, that was really feelsy. And it does make me wonder, when he went to go see his son and he was very old, that could have actually been him. Like in real life, you know, just like how he saw his boyfriend last season, even though it was a dreamscape, he was actually there as well. And maybe that was an actual moment between Larry and his son before he passed away. Because lo and behold, there were the pills on the side and everything like that. Who knows? Also, on top of Larry potentially attending that funeral, I did mention that his son had a sibling, so maybe he might reconnect with his family. Like, this is where everything could be going for him and his story this season. Now, we've got a very good idea as to what Vic's PTSD is. Now, from the trailer, we saw him attending those meetings where he's eventually going to go, especially after this episode in context, help deal with what happened in this episode. Basically, Mr. Nobody's living rent-free in his head, I think, from the trauma of season 1. So, what we have to remember is that he put him through his accident again. Do you remember those little scenes of where he was like tearing him apart as Silas, ripping him apart on the operating table, where he literally made Vic, through psychological manipulation, beat his dad and stuff like that? So he went to check on the painting and he was calling them bastards still in there. So Vic has got a lot to deal with. Yet again, a very valid story, something I'm looking forward to Vic to go on the journey, and he's even going to meet somebody I think he's going to get close with. So once again, I'm looking forward to Victor's story, and you know, he's also training Rita. I don't know what to say. It's all great, and I'm really, really enjoying it. There's not really any disappointments with what they've set up, at least in episode 1, with each of the characters' journeys. It's all very compelling, and I'm so happy to say not a theme of running out of ideas after season 1 kind of thing. If anything, it's just like, wow, there's so much layer and narrative still left to these characters for a long, long time, potentially. Now, as for Rita, I think, all of the characters become, or are, basically a joint first position, or they all come a close second. They're all so great that I can't really decide, other than Cliff and Jane are my favorite characters. They're like both first place. But Rita, I love her personality. She's absolutely amazing. April Bowlby, she's incredible. She just makes me laugh so much because of the kind of demeanor she has. She obviously grew up in such a different age. She's very posh in a sense. She's grown a lot already, but she was a movie actress. So just the little things that she does, like when she was stretching and going, ha, and just things like that. It just makes me laugh all the time. She did a lot of things like that in season 1. But this episode, she low-key wants to be a superhero. I've already teased this in those breakdown videos, but she is being trained by Cyborg, and her end game is maybe, as she put it herself, devoting herself to the better good. Now, today's listen was very quick, but very, very relevant. He insulted her by saying, like, you do realize you're not going to cut it though, right? She got really upset. I felt really bad. Even for a second, I was like, what the hell, Victor? It was deliberate. So once she tapped into the emotion, she tried out her power, and then he even pointed out, like, try and do that without being insulted next time. So I think everyone's journeys this season, like I've already mentioned Jane's, Larry's and stuff so far, but hers, I'm really excited because, I don't know, there's something about Rita in season 1 and, you know, overcoming this unique kind of condition she has and then gaining control of it and then empowering herself to even use those powers for good. That's very exciting to me. And I think one of the ones that I'm most looking forward to so far, especially with that ending scene where she did manage to stretch her arm out. And it was like the first proper, well, even though we saw her do that in season 1, saving the kid from Kipling, is really signifying of the fact that she may actually become a kind of low-key superhero. Now, as for Cliff, it was interesting where they decided to show him in his life in Florida, and I believe it was 1984. But I really found the scene interesting because I think they showed scenes of this before in season 1, but the relationship with his parents is also a bit of a reflection on the man he became, at least from what we saw in the flashbacks in the previous season. He spoke to his dad, says he thinks it's best that he doesn't come to the wedding to not cause a scene with his mum. And ultimately, it was just a bit messy. And I think we're going to get a bit of expansion upon this. And it was fantastic seeing Brendan Fraser again. I hope we get a lot more. I think instead of maybe getting an episode like we did with Jane Patrol, where we got him in the Robot Man suit, so to speak, we're going to see a lot more of Brendan through these kind of flashbacky-esque things. I mean, I can't guarantee that, but yeah, I'll take what I can get with him. Dorothy, once again, adorable. I love it when she goes to see Cliff. It breaks my heart how everyone is being a bit mean to her, and sometimes it flies over her head, sometimes it doesn't. I think this will quickly change, but this moment between Cliff, who really didn't want to tolerate her in that moment, it was such a fun scene, and the music playing in the background where they decided to go for that ride because Dorothy had never been in an automobile before. It was fantastic, but this kicked in some PTSD for Cliff. They did a very good job of simulating that moment where his wife shouted Cliff just before the accident took place, and even Darling Come Home appeared. I loved that. And honestly, guys, I've said about comic book accuracy that they're ripping out the pages. Darling Come Home is obviously one of Dorothy's imaginary friends, and I'm probably showing an image on screen right now. They literally are doing it identical. I love it. And another thing I love about Dorothy is no matter how much hate she's got in her life, and no matter how much Cliff is kind of just being mean to her in this moment, she just tries to reach out and comfort him. And that compassion is just heartbreaking, because then Cliff's just like, you know, but I don't have time to play with a little freak. And that's when she runs away and cries. I love Niles stepping up for her and sticking up for her then. Now, when it comes to magic, and this is when Kipling arrived, I love the kind of rituals you have to take into place to summon him. It's interesting seeing Kipling, because as much as we love him, he's quite a kind of dark character, because he's clearly very apprehensive of Dorothy. They've clearly been here before. They referenced the circus incident of 1927, and we can't forget that Kipling was willing to kill the kid, you know, from the Cult of the Unwritten Book from season 1. So we probably know what Kipling would do if it was up to him. So I don't blame Chief for not really wanting to get involved when Rita suggested that earlier on in the episode. Niles wanted Kipling's help to obviously get bigger again, because he obviously wasn't getting anywhere with science, but, you know, with magic like this, there comes a price. So first of all, up for grabs was the painting. I love what he said about Mr. Nobody, but he also asks for the thing around Niles' neck. Some of you may be wondering what that is. The episode kind of made it clear without actually spelling it out, but it is the thing that allows him to be immortal and stay at this age for Dorothy. That is the whole reason he did all of this, to Doom Patrol, each of their accidents, to find a way to outlive his daughter and always be there for her. So that is essentially giving up his life. So that's going to be hidden from Dorothy. And yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later. And I'm also curious what will happen to that painting in a future season. This could be a way to pave another future season storyline. Like I personally want season 3. If we get season 3, we better bloody do, to be about the Brotherhood of Evil. And then maybe season 4 could be about the Brotherhood of Dada, kind of breaking Mr. Nobody out of the painting that was in Kipling's care. But that's another video, I guess. But having just teased Candlemaker there, we can't forget how Dorothy started to freak out after seeing what happened with the baby rat. And my god, Well, I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. It was very cute. Like, I was like thinking, oh, you know, this is nice. They're not going to kill the rats anymore. At least Cliff isn't. You saw all these little baby rats kind of feasting away, if you will, with their mother. And then we had the runt. So this is when she started freaking out. They only come out, as she pointed out herself, when she's happy, scared, or sad. And the spider came. The big antler, wolf, deer thing came. But then somebody else was coming. Candlemaker. And I found it very interesting that Niles seems to have some idea already, because he really didn't want him to come, but he knows something there. I'd love to just be in Niles' brain, like, as to what picture he has of what's going on in his daughter's mind. Obviously, he has the imaginary friends aspect down, but Candlemaker he seems to kind of know about, and he's so scared of it, which is why he locked her away. And it's very interesting that he said, don't make me lock you away again, and how much he doesn't want that it actually made her stop there and then. But don't forget, guys, we've got quite a few episodes to go yet, and there's going to be some very close calls when it comes to Candlemaker like that. I didn't expect Candlemaker to have an introduction in episode 1. I thought it'd be a much more surprising thing for casual viewers as they go out, but I don't blame them for emphasizing it in the first episode, and actually it's really pleasantly surprising. I can't wait to see where that goes, especially with the way this episode ended, which we'll get into in a second. And this video is going on so long, but Danny the Brick, hopefully we see them merge potentially into Danny the Bungalow, because they were talking about, do you think Danny will ever grow bigger? I think that will happen. But also just that moment between Jane and Cliff. I love how far they've come to the point where Jane does want to speak to Cliff. Like, it's not like F off or anything like that. They were actually gossiping and bitching out about, you know, Niles. And that was such a hilarious conversation. End of the episode now. Everyone is back to normal size. They didn't really explain what everybody thought of how Chief managed that. Maybe they just thought, oh, Kipling found something out, and you know, they were happy to accept that. But we know that Chief is essentially given up his life now, and this comes into some of my prediction of how they're definitely going to toy with the idea of Chief dying this season. Some of you may know where they could go with that in the comic books, and I definitely think they may adapt that storyline, especially with Candlemaker this season coming into play, and especially how they even teased at themselves with that ending scene of when Dorothy was going to bed. And that scene, I love the chemistry between Timothy Dalton and Abigail Shapiro. It is just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And oh man, it's going to make it feel so much more feelsy if what I think is going to happen happens, that is. But they made it very clear anyway, foreshadowing Candlemaker trying to appeal to Dorothy again, saying he's dying, and he is, because he's aging, and like, because he doesn't have, I mean, think about it, Chief is very, 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 very old. Obviously Dorothy has been told that he's doing fine from Niles himself, but Candlemaker's trying to say, well, he's not. And even there's that creepy make wish, and she was just like, not today, and he was like, when? And she just said, we will see. So yeah, she's going to be fulfilling more wishes in moments of desperations. Maybe that will be a moment where it comes out that Niles is dying, and she will literally wish a certain thing. Phenomenal episode. Seriously, it was such a good episode that it's definitely up there with so many of the other episodes. But I think that's just because we've got this new character now, Dorothy, who I just absolutely adore. I would love to hear all of your thoughts down in the comments below. Don't forget, guys, episode 2 is going up later today. Maybe it's already up if you're watching this as soon as it's uploaded. Don't worry, I will be uploading episode 2 in maybe 3 to 5 hours. And then episode 3 tomorrow. Just as well, the video is ending now because it's literally raining and I have a skylight, so it's smacking down and this mic's probably picking it up. But anyway, seriously, like this video if you did enjoy it. If you're going to talk about spoilers from the comics and where you think things may be going, please try and have the courtesy to spoiler tag it just so others do not get spoiled about what they could be adapting. But I'm going to love you and leave you guys. Here's to episode 2. If you're binging this, go ahead and check out my other video. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and let's all enjoy Doom Patrol Season 2.